was with her stupid statement of nobody wants to work anymore.
Get your ass wow.
When was the last time that bitch had a job?
Bitch, shut the fuck. Like, and I get it.
I'm sorry. She became famous from screwing Brandy's brother.
Well,
and having that tape accidentally released.
Before that, though, she was like a personal assistant, like a closet organizer. I don't know. She worked for like Paris Hilton.
Oh.
As like a stylist, maybe?
Oh,
I'm not really sure, but there's like early pictures of like Paris and Kim.
So possibly 20-ish years ago, she had a job.
Yeah, girl. And I know that like they're moguls, but what do you actually do?
Well, and they have very publicly said that not one of them has any talent. That they just are public figures.
Yeah.
That their mother very cleverly sold.
Which, like, let me tell you, is that kind of like my kind of dream fame? I don't feel like I'm talented in any way. I feel like if I had fame, it would have to be based on my personality solely, and the fact that I'm pretty. Other than that, I don't have anything else going for me.
But they don't. Any of them seem to have much personality.
I know.
They have money.
They're solid today.
They have money, and they have enhanced faces and enhanced bodies.
I know.
That's what they have, and they have a very smart manager.
That's it. Their mother.
Their who has sold them. It's like, here's their commodity. Here's the this thing and whatever. Good for them.
Good for you, girl. But
you know,
just exploited your
then the youngest ones,
the Jenners.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. Girl, I can't.
I mean, one of them actually, one's a model, right? And the other one has or is it the same one that has the makeup company that's the model? I don't care.
Is the taller and thinner one. Okay. And then the makeup company is the one who's plumped from head to toe. And it used to be my favorite thing to watch her ever-changing face. I know, like, I don't care. Get your plastic surgery.
By the way, how come they're not white anymore? The two younger ones. I'm sorry, they have two white parents.
You're asking me questions.
No, I know that Kim and Chloe and Cookie and
Courtney and Rob. There's four.
Rob. How do you have all those K's and
Rob? His father.
Rob.
You dumb bitch.
I know that their father was not white.
He was Armenian.
He's Armenian.
Correct.
But come on,
and there's all that speculation.
Caitlyn Jenner and Kris Jenner and
listen, there's all that speculation.
They white people.
Chloe's real papa is O.J. Simpson, which makes me like giddy because Robert Kardashian was his attorney.
Yes,
they were all close.
Yes,
so
maybe too close.
Or
well, whatever. But so she did earn some little brownie points for sticking up for.
And then was like, "You're a lazy, fat, fucking stupid bitch, and get up and work. Or I'm gonna bomb your house." Like that's. I'm like,
because capitalism works for her, whereas it seems to not work for the rest of us. What was I watching the other day? It was a show I went to the other night with the Rosebud and Thorn pageant here in Portland, which is an underage pageant. It's been going on for 48 years.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. What's scary is I was at like the fourth or fifth one. Ooh, I'm that old. Anyhow, and one of the girls was like, I wanted to give my award to this character, but he couldn't be here because, capitalism. It was like, well, it's not wrong. It's not wrong. Okay. Hey, listen, since we're talking about health stuff, I'm going to do a little commercial, although they're not supporting us at all, but I'm going to take a commercial break and actually do a commercial. You ready?
Ready.
Since we are talking about mental health today, I want to talk about BetterHelp.com because, we're not sponsored by anybody at this point. Hopefully someday. But BetterHelp.com is a way that you can get therapy without leaving your home. And so many people, that is one of the struggles, is leaving your home to go somewhere, to get in your car, to go see people in person that you don't know, be uncomfortable, sit in an office, all those things. With BetterHelp.com, you can find help with your little computer, your phone, whatever you go online with. And you can find therapists who work in a field that applies to you. So you can find therapists who are specifically dealing with queer issues or whatever your issues are. So go check out BetterHelp.com. That's BetterHelp.com. And we are back.
We sure are back.
Well, and specifically, now our usual MO is that we sit and chit chat for about an hour, and then we're done, and we go about our day and do our things, and I publish it, and then I listen to it after it's all published. We don't edit. We don't, change our conversation. We don't, even when we screw up or the clock makes a crazy noise or the dogs bark or whatever happens, it happens. This is us,
Welcome to the household.
This is us, warts and all.
Yep.
So, but today we actually did stop because we kind of had to change our schedule. And it's interesting that we're talking about mental health because Annika, on our break, went and had her meeting from home with her therapist.
With my therapist. So usually on Wednesdays, I have therapy, and then we do the podcast. So that's always I'm real fresh. But therapy's been very good. I have been going for the past 6 months every week. It's been great. I initially started with EMDR, which if you don't know what EMDR is, you should look it up. There's a dog barking from a clock. Please hold. No, I'm just kidding. EMDR is great. It's about if you have a lot of trauma, and severe trauma, prolonged chronic trauma, it's something you should do. It just helps you access times in your life that were traumatic. And
what does EMDR stand for?
Something, a rapid eye movement. It's okay, so it's something I explain to you. I don't know what it means. I have looked it up, but it's science, girl. And
okay, well, science.
Science word. Girl, I'm what?
We're not smart enough for that.
That's not what it means. So, but it's basically rapid eye movement. You access repressed traumas, you access just memories, right? And it helps you process. And you get to change the narrative, really. You get to integrate it. Because you go into these moments where you, it kind of feels like hypnotic. But you tap in or something. So it's basically bilateral brain stimulation. So it's what rapid eye movement does. When your eyes move back and forth really quickly when you're sleeping, you're accessing, you're processing. That's what dreams are. You're processing. Okay. So basically with EMDR, you need to go weekly because you process pretty much constantly. So you feel a little out of whack for a while. But it's helpful. It is also insane because a lot of it helps you change the narrative, change how you felt, change your memories. You can't change what happened, but you can change how you feel about it. And it kind of makes the memories blurry. I told my therapist, often we'll have conversations and I forget what we talked about. If I'm trying to tell my partner, tell you about it, there are things that I don't remember because that's the point of it. Trying to make the trauma seem more distant than the present, right? But the one thing that you and I were just talking about was I have this place in therapy where I feel really good. It's the first time in my life where I feel contented. I can talk about my future and what that looks like for me and how I got to the point where multiple things can be true. And what I just said to you was that nothing, and this isn't apathetic, I don't hate myself or the world, but nothing means anything. And by that, I mean, we give things value, but if we didn't exist, they wouldn't exist. Time wouldn't exist. Borders, unless it was a natural border like the ocean.
Sure, of course.
Gender, money, language, race. None of this exists, right? And so my point is none of it really matters. And that to me is more freeing than it is upsetting because that gives us the opportunity to find what does matter to us. And that's not going to look homogenous or uniform. That's people are inspired differently. People have different careers, people have different passions, but it does help. I get to figure out, I'm now searching for and realizing what I'm super passionate about and how I don't have to live up to the expectations of the world or society or my family or whatever, then I can do what I want. When I realize that nothing does mean anything, but it means something to me, then I get to find in the middle what makes Annika tick, what makes Annika feel passionate, Because I think overall that's the most important thing, Find out what makes you happy, find out what you feel like will continually to make you feel better. Life is hard. Things are hard. Things are shitty. And it is interesting that collectively we all kind of went through this awakening and this traumatic change with Donald Trump being president, the worldwide protest of BLM, COVID. We really got to see the truth and how people feel. And the only thing I got to say is when somebody shows you that their true colors, you believe them the first time, right? We're not going to change their narrative. We're not going to say they're someone different. They showed you who they were. And I think that's what's happening now is people are living their truth, and their truth to me, a lot of it is real ugly. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, absolutely. I think because so many people have said, have actually kind of blamed Donald Trump for how racist the world is. Well, all he did was say, I'm a racist asshole.
Mm-hmm.
You can be free to be as nasty, ugly, racist as you want to be, and good for you. Kudos.
Filter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So all those filters that you've been struggling with all these years to try and pretend you're a decent human being, take them away, girl. Because you don't have to. Mm-hmm. I have given you permission as the leader of, this country to be a dirtball.
Mm-hmm. And my president.
Well, right. And so when people are like, oh my God, I didn't even know racism still existed. Well, where have you been?
Bitch, what?
And it's because you haven't had to deal with it on the daily because you're white, or whatever it is, but you haven't had to deal with it, and so the impact of racism is enough to, really stress out anyone's mental health who's had to deal with it. But then you add this last piling on of the last several years of where it's like, oh, I can now say whatever I want. I can tell you to go back to your country. I can say all these ugly things to you because it's now just open season on everyone.
It reminds me, and granted I wasn't alive during this time, but before Civil Rights Act was passed in the late 60s, how being openly racist was acceptable. Saying hateful, ugly, shitty things was acceptable and expected and common. And then there was the change in law where black people are people, and I don't know, you should respect them because they're people.
Crazy.
I know. And how they made racial discrimination against the law, essentially, right? For businesses, right?
Yeah.
But now everyone was like, oh, I'm not racist. Bitch, most of our family, I'm 33, most everyone of the adults in my family, the elders in my family, were probably alive during that. My grandparents were definitely alive during it. And so,
I was a little kid, right? Yes, I was there.
It does make you think, makes you wonder of our white ancestors, who was there? Do you know what I mean?
Well, and if you think about, all those images that we've seen over the years, like the woman standing behind little tiny, Ruby Bridges, screaming racist stuff. She's still alive.
Oh, bitch, she's alive.
And that woman, because now she's like, oh, I'm not that person. Well, maybe not now, but I hope you're real proud of the fact that you were screaming horrible things at a little girl.
A little girl.
I mean, I don't care what your belief is. Mm-mm. You're traumatizing a child. Can you imagine that poor little girl who, by the way, also still alive today, because that wasn't that long ago.
No.
And I realized we were talking about mental health, but imagine just if you look at each and every one of those people and their mental health, look at those people who had to be escorted into a school by the military because all those white people wanted to kill them.
Right. Well, I mean that.
And I imagine that. We want to talk trauma.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That is some long-term trauma that these folks have had to deal with. That's just crazy to me.
Even in the beginning of this episode, though, we talked about our good friend Maria and how, saying to you, well, don't get offended when I say, because she said white people or whatever. And just even that, imagine if you are a white person, which you probably are, imagine, the worst day you've ever had. Do you know what I mean? The shittiest, most upsetting, horrible day you've had. And now add on top of that, you are othered, right? You are differently abled, you are deaf, you are in a wheelchair, or maybe you're a person of color, you're a black woman, or you're queer black woman. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now imagine what that feels like, because damn well, especially if you're listening to us, you have seen, and if it's not because of us, but you've seen it in the world, how awfully people of color, marginalized, other people have been treated. Yeah. And so imagine what the mental health must be like for people who their identities compound in such a way that they're othered every turn.
Well, and because I am such a visual person, and I'm a very visual learner, one of the things that when I was in my first marriage, I used to visualize our problems kind of like this mountain of things that had just been stacked up.
Sure.
And I kept trying to tell my then husband, it's like, we're not at some point going to be able to deal with this because it's going to be too big and too high. And once you start pulling those little thingies off the top, it's going to take forever to get back to the bottom of what started this mess. So imagine, if you will, if you were, as you say, on your worst day and you're othered and all of the weight of that shit piling on you It's not like you can just go, okay, I'm going to take this one thing off your